Hey guys, this is Steve Massey with Key Vision. I want to talk to you today about some information that I've received, some of the things that I've utilized in my life and my process, some of the things that I've learned. So what I wanted to do is talk to you today about relapse. Talk a little bit about relapse, what it looks like, how it happens, so I can share with you a little bit about a term that we would probably refer to as untreated addiction. So I know you've probably seen some segments here where we've discussed to you what addiction is, the definition of it. It's a compulsive disorder that affects the brain, mind, body, and spirit, and plagues a lot of people in many areas of their life. So today what we want to do is discuss a little bit about relapse, how if a person has had a break from addiction to where they've got it in a place to where they're maintaining the addiction, got under control, some of the things that happened. So let's first talk about what is relapse. Relapse is a process to where if you've had a period of time abstinence from drugs and you're actually doing something to maintain that abstinence, then you are probably experiencing a period of recovery. So relapse would be once that period of time ceases and you return back to active use. So one of the things that we describe about relapse is a person cannot relapse if they're not in a process of recovery. So many people have this confused to where they'll be absent from drugs or alcohol and then they'll start using again and then they'll tell someone or someone will tell them you relapse. Well, it's really not a technical relapse. It's just a return to active use. So relapse would be the opposite of that. It would be someone with a substantial amount of time or a short period of time in recovery, using the tools, having a system to maintain their illness, kind of keep it arrested, and then return back to active use. So let's talk about the process of how relapse begins. So what I want to share with you is that relapse usually begins far before that person actually picks up the alcohol or drugs again. It's a process in your thinking where somewhere in your mind, the same thing that told you to stop doing it is now telling you you don't have to, or you no longer have a problem. So when a person relapses, that means that there has to be a thought process that goes before the actual physical part to where they actually pick up the substance and start drinking or using drugs again. So that means that somewhere in your mind, you must have thought that what you're going to do is not going to harm you, or either it's not going to be that bad, or either that it's not worth it. So many times there are different factors or variables that contribute to relapses. We talk about one could be being in a stressful environment, two, not having the right proper support, three, maybe having something happen in terms of something crisis-based where there's a crisis to where it triggers you to react to what you normally usually do, go back to using drugs to cope with it or to ignore it. So a lot of this revolves around isolating yourself from the daily tools that you'll need to utilize in order to maintain your recovery. And not everyone has to do a 12-step program. However, they're very effective. So many times people will use different tools and options to maintain their recovery, such as having counseling, support groups. There's a really important variable that has to be related to some type of spiritual maintenance, to where a lot of times a person will get back into the church and into that Christian setting to where they're feeding their spirit with healthy things, starting to appreciate the joys of life and the gifts that God had given to them, being a part of different support groups, being active in the community, making sure that you're around the right people, staying away from old peer groups and influences. Not to say that we're better than them, just knowing that I can't be around people who use substances and thinking that I'm going to be okay and not be able to use them myself. it almost goes back to the old saying that we use sometimes. If you hang with bank robbers, at some point, you're probably going to be in on the bank robbery. So if you stay away from them, and there's probably a better chance that you have an opportunity not to be a part that type of engagement. So in saying those things, we look at the relapse process. And so thinking about it, meaning that when those stimulus come to you, the things that stimulate your thinking to where you might be in a crisis situation, something might come spontaneous to you, because let's face it, a person in recovery who's not on drugs, utilizing their tools, that life's still going to move forward. So we have to have ways to cope with that ongoing. So we have to be able to say, for instance, if I have a job and I get fired, I can give you an example in my life to where I was in recovery early at a time where I didn't have a lot of time clean, and I had a job, and they told me that I was going to have to leave, and they had to fire me. They told me I did a good job, but they couldn't keep me. And I'll tell you what, it really sent me in a tailspin. And I was really at that moment at a crossroad where I was really scared, frightened. I felt like I had failed. I don't think no one enjoys being fired from a job. And so immediately I knew I was in a red zone where I had to reach out to someone, talk to them right away. Because if I didn't, I knew that I would probably sit back and think, oh, I've failed again. This is not working. Let me just go get high. So what I was able to do was call a few people, go among a support group, sit down with them, and discuss it and say, hey, guys, I lost my job. I'm really sad right now. I'm scared. I'm upset. I don't know what to do. And I was able to get the feedback and support needed. And it was just simple words of encouragement from people who cared about me, to where some of the insight and the feedback I got was related to something as simple as, Steve, you'll find another job. When you're by yourself and something like that happens, it's not so easy to have that thought, especially when you've kind of been vulnerable, using drugs for a long period of time, doing a lot of different things, to where practical thinking is just not something that just comes normal to us, to where we have to kind of relearn that as a mindset and a process to where we think things through. So we need support. So I would say ongoing support is probably one of the primary pieces to keeping from returning to active addiction and not having a relapse process take place. So I would say having your support, looking at older people who you've been associated with who are not living according to your standards. Once again, I need to say, not saying we're better than them. We can love and pray for them. And hopefully that at some point when their season comes, they'll join in and start doing the things that we do, so we can participate in healthy living and start thriving, helping others. Being able to go to people and go to individuals and ask for help and talk to them and tell them, hey, I really need to run something by you. In a 12-step community, they have someone called a sponsor. It's not a financial advisor. It's not a counselor or therapist. It's a person who simply has been where I've been. And when I'm in places where I don't know or have not been before, I can reach out to that person and ask them, what has their experience been like? And they share it with me, give me encouragement. There's many times you can get with the right people in a support environment, and they'll tell you what you shouldn't be doing. So that's really key, too, for moving forward. So relapses happen. They're often fatal. They're not required for us to go through a process of recovery. And I need to share this. As a person who's been clean coming close to 13 years, I have not found it necessary to have to experience that. But I've got a lot of friends and people in my life who I have kind of rode that road with and kind of supported them and watched them and helped them get back on the wagon and get back up on the horse. So if you've experienced that, this can be your time too to do the same thing. Get up, ask for help. Don't be prideful. It's pretty hard for a person to help themselves when there's some tough challenges ahead. You're going to need to be able to reach out to others and ask them for help and compassion and understanding. And you'd be surprised what that does when you're able to just say, hey, I need help. Can I share something with you? You'll get the feedback and you'll ask yourself probably, why didn't I do this a long time ago? So I hope I've covered a few things related to what relapse looks like and how it often begins prior to the actual drug use. I give you a situation-based scenario to where if a person lost a job, that would be one example. There's all sorts of situations that can occur that can cause a person to be in that place. Sometimes they may wake up and just might have a craving, the thought of using. And then one of the other tools that we have helped people to understand and that they can do is that when you're thinking about using drugs and you've had some time away from them and the thoughts come back, you can simply talk to someone else and also think about your process. Play your tape through. Play your tape through. Don't go to the part where you use it and you think it's going to feel good. Play the tape to, in the end, what happens always when you use drugs, what it amounts to. I go to jail. I hurt people. I'm playing Russian roulette with my life. I won't be able to work. I won't be able to provide. I can't take care of my kids. I can't enjoy my kids. Family and friends suffer. And ultimately, I'm going to die. So if you can think those things through prior to doing it, it'll give you all the reasons not to make that choice and be able to pick up the phone and call someone and share with them. So I hope some of the things I've shared with you today has helped you take a deeper look at the process of what relapse looks like. Thank you. My name's Stephen Massey, and have a good day. Thanks.